Hi, I'm Katie, and this is my final for my interpersonal communications class. I decided to go with the topic question, how does communication affect relationship satisfaction in romantic relationships? I played around with a bunch of different things, trying to figure out what I wanted to kind of experiment with for this final, and none of them were really sticking with me, and so I decided to go with this because one of the things I'm most proud of in my life is mine and my husband's relationship. I think that through the years, we've done a really good job at nailing it down and figuring out how to very much effectively communicate with each other. This year will be our 10-year anniversary, and things have been a breeze for us. And I think it's because of how well we communicate with each other and how open we are with each other. And so that's kind of why I went with this question, and I decided to ask a bunch of people. I did a survey to ask a bunch of people questions about how they communicate in their relationship and then how they would rate their relationship satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. A few of the articles that I found to back this up. The first one talks about closeness, annoyance, and relationship satisfaction. And so researchers found that couples often influence each other's emotions. And so it kind of means like you feed off of each other. So if you come home annoyed, your partner may become annoyed. If your partner comes home irritated, you may become irritated, and then it just causes a spread of conflict. And so it also found that couples with higher relationship satisfaction were less emotionally reactive to each other. They were better at not immediately taking on their partner's stress and negative emotions. I know that I've done this in the past. My husband would come home irritated. I felt like it was directed at me, and so we would get into a fight about it. And now I'm a lot better at kind of checking in with him and asking how he's feeling, if it's stemming from me or work or something else. And then I'm better able to communicate and help him relieve that tension. If it's from work or whatnot, we can kind of talk through it. The next article I found focuses on the balance between closeness and individuality in relationships. And so the researchers wanted to see how being independent affects how close people feel to their partners. And they found a negative correlation between people who really strongly value their independence. They feel less emotionally connected to their partner. It also talks about how people with really healthy relationships have a good balance of individuality, boundaries, personal time, and time together. And so there is a lot of ways that this can become unbalanced. Spending too much time together can make you feel like you're losing your independence or you're losing your sense of self, and not spending enough time together can really make it feel like you're not emotionally connecting to your partner. And so it's all about finding that balance and communicating with your partner what you're feeling that you want at that time. This also kind of shows that communication is not always consistent, because one day you may want to be really close and always together, and the next day you may just really want to be alone and have some time to yourself. I do think that a lot of people can lose their sense of identity if they find themselves spending too much time with one person, because you start to take on too much of like their needs and what they want and what you're doing for them, and you kind of lose track of your needs. So there is a really important balance in that. And then the last article is the relationships dialects theory. It explains why communication in relationships can be complicated, and this kind of touches on the inconsistency of communication in relationships and why it's not black and white. And so instead of seeing relationships as stable and simple, this theory says that they're constantly shaped by opposite needs. And so these competing needs can be closeness versus independence, openness versus privacy, stability versus change. All these things are going to affect how you communicate in a relationship and kind of create that battle of balance with each other. And so it explains that people are always trying to balance these competing needs, and the way to do it is by communicating. And that's why it's not consistent, because you are going to always feel a different way every day. And so communicating your needs for that moment is going to be important in having a healthy relationship and avoiding conflict. So to test this, I posted a Google survey on my Facebook, and asked people to answer honestly. It's all anonymous, and I got 42 participants, which is awesome. That was way more than I was expecting to take the survey for me. And so I asked a bunch of questions just that they would rate on a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree, and then a couple open-ended questions, and then at the end, their overall satisfaction from 1 to 10 on their relationship. And then, so my results, I feel like, are kind of obvious in the fact that yes, the more communication, the stronger the relationship, the higher relationships satisfactions that I got from the participants. The strongest connections that people with the highest satisfaction rated, like, strongly agree on, were feeling understood, emotional needs being met, being able to communicate openly, and resolving conflict effectively. And one of the most interesting things I found was not so much the frequency of communication that made the satisfaction stronger. It is the quality of the communication. And so just talking or just listening is not always going to do it in making your relationship stronger. It is understanding and active listening. For the open-ended questions, I had 3 of them. They were optional. And I was surprised at how many people answered the same thing for the majority of these questions. So my first question was, what does your partner do that makes you feel heard or understood during a conversation? And the most common reply was that their partner would actively listen and then ask questions about what they were talking about. That was the majority of the answers, is my partner asks questions. I love when they actually hear what I'm saying. And the next question was, what makes you feel most appreciated by your partner? And the most common replies to that was the participants' partners understanding their likes, their needs, and as well as communicating their appreciation for each other. So many of the people talked about how they loved that their partner told them that they appreciated them, that they told them that they appreciated that they did the dishes that day, that they told them that they appreciated that they helped the kids that day. Just appreciating that person and what they're doing as part of your life and relationship, even if it's everyday tasks, makes a huge impact on a lot of people. As well as people also mentioned a few things like they bought me a snack I liked. They listened to what I wanted on this day, and they did it without me asking. And that can take a lot of learning, but a lot of active listening, just being like, my partner mentioned that they're really tired and stressed and they have this list of things to do. I can pick these things up, no problem. That makes a big difference in the relationship satisfaction for a lot of these people. The final question I asked is, what is one thing your partner could do to improve communication in your relationship? A lot of people were upset by their partner shutting down emotionally during conflict, and so they're not able to talk about it. They're not able to solve the conflict, and there's no communication on how the other person is feeling. They just shut down and let it go, which can just be really toxic in the end, and it can build up a lot of negative feelings towards each other. And the other thing that was very common for that question was a lot of people would like their partners to spend less time on their phones and more time with them or the kids. And so I was actually surprised at how there was 1 or 2 odd answers, but most people said the same thing for all these questions out of the 42 participants. And let's see, most partners that prefer spending time alone and being more independent typically rated lower on the satisfaction scale. There were a few people that rated that they strongly agree that they like having time to themselves, but they rated lower on strongly disagree of feeling overwhelmed if they don't get time to themselves, spending time alone versus with their partner. But the ones that only rated high on valuing their time still had a high relationship satisfaction. And that's probably a lot to do with how you communicate with your partner that you want some time to yourself. I like to read, and my husband enjoys video games when he has the time. And so we kind of are both in the same place where it's like some days we're like, let's hang out, let's go get dinner, let's watch a movie. And then other nights I'm like, I want to read my book, you go play your game, let's have our time. And it works really well for the both of us. So overall, the project showed me that the communication is not only about talking, it's about listening and understanding what your partner's needs and wants are. Even if you're communicating often, it doesn't really mean that it's effective. It also connects to the research because emotional closeness improves relationships, poor communication can increase conflict, and relationships involve balancing that closeness versus individuality. Another interesting thing was the frequency of talking doesn't matter as much as the quality of talking. I wasn't really expecting that result, but it does make a lot of sense now that I've seen it. So yeah, overall my findings did support the research that I found. It helped me realize how important it is to be a good listener, really overall, not just a good communicator. And I really am gonna work more on understanding and listening too. Me and my husband are really good about it, but I do know that I can be very distracted and easily kind of cut off a conversation to bring something up, and I think I could work on that a lot better to make the quality of our communication improve a bit. And so if you're kind of looking on ways to improve your relationship, this might be a good starting point to reflect and see how well you listen and understand and connect to your partner and hear the things that they like or they need or want help with, as well as communicating things that you would like. One of the biggest things I learned in my relationship is that your partner's not just going to know what you want, and it can get really frustrating when you just feel like they should know what you want, or they should know to surprise you, they should know what you like. But in the end, not everyone sees the obvious signs of these things, and so it's so much easier to tell them what you want and what you need, and then you receive it, and you're both communicating well, and you're both happy, and things work out much better, and there's less conflict. So this was a very interesting topic to do, and I hope it helps you as well.